Hello and welcome. I'm Toya, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make the beautiful divine scarf pattern. So let's get started. To make your scarf, you will need yarn, which for this pattern I use the Mighty Stitch worsted from WeCrochet. The color names are Serrano, Macaw, and Canary. You'll need 2 skeins of each. If you're using something else, the fiber content is 80% acrylic and 20% superwash wool. So you'll need 2 skeins of each color. You will need your hook. I use a 5.5 millimeter, or you can, grab whichever hook that helps you to achieve the gauge. Full list of supplies and yardage on the yarn and everything will be in the description. You'll also need some scissors, a tapestry needle, and something to use to make your fringe. I use my gauge ruler. You'll just need something that's at least 5 inches wide to wrap your yarn around and make the strands for your tassels. So that's what you need. Grab your supplies and then we'll get started. We will begin by chaining 261. So to get started, we're going to make a slip knot. You can make a slip knot however you're comfortable. For me, I just like to grab the end of the yarn, wrap it over my finger, and cross them on the bottom of my finger. Take the loop in the front, put it over the other loop, and then pull the other one up. Hold the tails, and you've got your little loop. Then I insert my hook, tighten it up, and now we will chain 261. So we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop through the loop that was on the hook. That was 1. Yarn over, pull up a loop, 2. Yarn over, pull up a loop, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you're going to continue until you have 261 chains. So just take your time going through it. You don't want the chains to be too tight. So just continue making your chain, and then I will come back and we will get started on row 1. Now that we have our 261 chains, we're going to start row 1. So for row 1, you're going to half double crochet all the way along the chain. So you're going to start in the second chain from the hook. So not the loop on the hook, not that first chain. You're going to work into the second chain from the hook. And I work into the bottom bump. So when you look at your chain, you have the top V's. That's 1, 2, and then when you flip it over, you have that little bar across the back of the chains. That's where it's under that little bar that I'm going to place the stitches. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook under that little bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So we'll do that again. So we turn over to the back of our chains, yarn over, insert your hook under that bottom bump, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And one more time, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook, and then you're going to continue working your half double crochets in the bottom bump all the way across till you get to the end. Then I'll come back and show you how to work the offset stitches for row 2 and then all rows following. So yeah, so continue with your half double crochets, and then I'll come back and we'll work on row 2. Chain 1 and turn. So the rest of the pattern is worked in offset half double crochet stitches, which means we're going to be working in between our stitches. So to start, you're going to place a regular half double crochet, which is under the 2 loops. So you're going to place your first stitch right here. So you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch as normal, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook. So now for your second stitch, you're not going to work into this space. you're going to work into this space right here. So I'll pull on it a little bit. So we're working into, I'm gonna take my hook out so I can show you. We're going to be inserting our hook in here. So all the way under all the loops in between the stitches, right there. See? Just like that. Let's put my hook back in. We're going to yarn over, insert our hook in that space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook. So that's your first offset half double crochet. So we'll do that again. We'll yarn over, insert our hook in between those 2 stitches, the next 2 stitches. So you insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So we'll do that a few more times. Yarn over, insert between the stitches, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And I'll do that with you one more time. Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So that's what your stitches are going to look like. So we're working in the space between each of our half double crochet stitches. So for your first stitch of the row, you work into the stitch under the top 2 loops, and then for your other stitches, you work in between the stitches. So you come between that post, insert your hook right in there. So you're gonna continue working half double crochet stitches in between each of the stitches until you get to the last 2 stitches, and then I'll show you how to finish off the row. All right, so I'm just about finished with row 2. I'm gonna work a couple more stitches, and then I'll show you how to finish off this row. All right, so I now have 2 spaces left, which when you turn it, it'll look like 3 stitches. So we're gonna work into this space. So there's a stitch worked in there. So we have this empty space and that empty space. So we're gonna work into that space and this space. So we are going to yarn over, insert your hook into that first space, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, and then 1 more space left. We're going to yarn over, insert our hook into that final space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Now we have to work into our very last stitch. So what you're gonna have to do is rotate the work towards you so you can see the little V at the top of the stitch. And you're going to yarn over and insert your hook under those 2 loops. So the top 2 loops of the stitch, you're going to insert your hook under those 2 loops, then yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So that's pretty much what you're going to be doing, but I'll start row 3 with you as well. So we're going to chain 1, turn, and we will work into under the top 2 loops of the first stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook under the top 2 loops of the first stitch and work your half double crochet. And then we're going to not work into this space, we're going to work into the following space. So at the beginning of the rows, we're going to skip the first space, work into the second one. So yarn over, insert your hook into the space between the next 2 stitches, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, work your half double crochet. So that's what the beginning of your row should look like. Half double crochet under the top 2 loops of the first stitch, and then a half double crochet in between the next 2 stitches. And we're going to continue working offset double crochet stitches until you get to the end of your row. And like we did in the previous row, when you get to the very end, you're going to work into the final space and under the top 2 loops of the final stitch. That just helps to give you a nice clean edge at the end of the scarf. So at the end, you're going to work into that space and that stitch. Now each color is worked for 7 rows. So we just started our row 3. So I'll work a couple of stitches with you on row 3. So we yarn over, insert into the space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, yarn over, insert between the stitches, yarn over, pull up a loop through all 3 loops on your hook. So you continue working offset half double crochets until you get to the last stitch, work under the top of the last stitch, and then continue repeating row 2 for row 3 and 4 more rows. So when you get to the end of row 7, I'll come back and we'll do our color change to color number 2. All right, now we're at the end of row 7 and it's time to change color. So I'm going to start my last stitch in color 1. So you're going to yarn over, insert your hook under the 2 loops, yarn over, pull up a loop, and we're going to stop here. So what I do to have a few less ends to weave in is I just measure out a tail that's about 6 inches. Grab my scissors and just cut my yarn. We can get rid of color 1 for now. And then we're going to get color 2 for me. That is the yellow. Just going to hold on to it here. Make sure it's about the same length of the part I just cut off. And then I'm just going to yarn over with the new color. Pull up through all 3 loops on the hook. Just tighten them down. Chain 1. Turn, and then I will continue with color 2. So we're going to work with our second color for another 7 rows. And at the end of those 7 rows, I'll come back and we will change to our third color. And here we are at the end of row 14. So we're now going to change to our third color. So just like we did the last time, on our last stitch, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook under the 2 loops, yarn over, pull up a loop. Now we're going to drop that color and we're going to pick up our next color. Remember to snip them off, just leaving long tails, and we'll just hide those in the fringe. So we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop, then chain 1, tighten up the stitch, turn our work, and then we're going to continue working like we did in our previous rows. We're going to work this color now for another 7 rows, and then I will come back and let you know how to continue. All right, so now I am at the end of row 21. So I've repeated each color once so far. I have 7 rows of red, 7 of yellow, and 7 of green. So at this point, you're going to repeat the color sequence once more. So from this point, I'm going to change back to color 1, which is my red. Yarn over, chain 1. I'm going to turn, and then from this point, I'm going to go and work another 7 rows of red, another 7 rows of my yellow, and then another 7 rows of my green. And at that point, I will come back and we will do our fringe. So yeah, so from this point, just go ahead and work another color sequence. 1 more color 1, 1 more of your color 2, 1 more of your color 3 for 7 rows each, and then come back and we'll add our fringe. All right, so to get started with prepping your strands for your fringe, you will need whatever it is you're going to use to wrap your yarn around. And remember, it just needs to be wider than 4.5 inches, so it needs to be at least 5 inches. So you got your little thing you're going to wrap your yarn around. You need your sharp scissors and your yarn. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the end of your yarn, you're going to place it on top, and you're going to hold it at the bottom. And then you're going to wrap it around about 23 to 25 times. I like to go 25 just so I have extra and I won't have to come back and do it again. So you're just going to hold it and wrap it around like so. And don't pull on it too tightly. You want it to be firm but not tight. So you're just going to hold it at the bottom here. Just pull out your yarn just to give you some working room and just wrap it around. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you're going to go 25. Now, if you have something that's really firm, you can do 50 because you're going to need to do the 25 wraps for each end of the scarf. So if you have something that's firm, mine's a little bit wobbly, so I don't like to put too much because then it starts to bow and the strands get shorter. So if you have something firm, just go ahead and wrap it around 50 times, so you only have to do it once. But if not, just do it in 2 stages. So this is the first one. 8, 9, 10. All right, 25. So when I get there, I just like to squish them together just so it's easier to cut. And I'll make sure you hold the other end of the yarn or you'll be short a strand. So you just hold the ends together and cut it from your skein and then just insert your scissors and just trim it. All right, so you've got your first set of strands. Set that off to the side and then do it again for your red. Unless you did 50 and you're gonna go on to your second color. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You just grab it and you wrap it around until you have enough strands and then you cut it. All right, so that's all my red, and you're just going to repeat that for each color. And then we'll come back and I'll show you how to attach it to your scarf. Okay, now that you have your strands all cut and ready to go, we're going to start to attach the fringe. So you're going to take one of each color. I'm going to just line them up, make sure they're even. Fold it in half. And then grab your hook. And I'll come in close here. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you're getting it under 2 strands. I'll zoom in a little bit for you here. So looking at the edge of your scarf this way, when you insert your hook to pull through the fringe, you want to make sure you come under 2 loops. So I've got 1 loop and 2 loops. So you want to make sure you do that, and then you just use your hook, grab your 3 strands, sometimes a little tricky, Gotta hold it real tight on the other end and just pull it through. All right, so what I like to do is when you have those loose ends from the ends we didn't weave in, you just hold it with your little bunch. And that little loop you have, once you pulled it all through, you just grab all the tails and pull it through, including that one that we didn't weave in. So find the one that wasn't weaved in, just let it hang and tighten everything else up around it. Because if you pull on that too tight, then you're going to pull on your stitch. And then what I find is if you pull each strand individually, it'll help to tighten it all up. All right, so there you go. One piece is already in. So now we'll do that again. Grab one of each strand. Even them up. Just double it over your fingers, like so. Grab your hook, and then I kind of like to leave about a row in between each bunch. So we did one, I was like on that first row, so I'm not gonna go into that one. I'm gonna go over here into this one. And you're just gonna go under 2 loops. Again, see, 1, 2, go under those 2 loops. Put your hook under your strands and then pull it through. Pull it up so you can get your fingers in. Grab the tails and pull them through. Just like so. So then now they're not like sitting against each other. There's just a little bit of space in between so that it'll lay nice and flat rather than like bunched up. Okay, so for the other tails, so for like the ones that we didn't weave in, where you did your color changes, what I like to do is I like to make a little knot just to secure it. I know they say you shouldn't make knots in your work, but I don't want it to unravel. So I'm going to show you how I work around these. So let's grab a few more strands. All right, so it's coming close. So now, because this is 2 rows, so one is from one and one's from the other one, I like to go in between the rows. So if you look at it real close here, just this little space right here, I'm going to shove my hook in here from the back end so you can see. So there's going to be a space here between those 2 rows. That's where I want to come in, just so you can then hide the knot that we just made to secure it. So you just come in. So now I'm going to go from this side. You just put your hook right under the knot of the other 2 strands. And just pull it through. And then when you're pulling your tails through, make sure you grab those ends. But before you tighten, find them, pull them off to the side, tighten everything up around it. Because if you pull too hard on the ones with the knot, you're going to pull your stitches. So just tighten everything else up around it. And no one's going to notice. So you got your nice little fringe. And then when you're doing your fringe, also make sure you're pulling your yarn in from the same direction so that it looks the same on, it looks uniform on each side. So one side is going to have that crossover, and then the other side will kind of look like a little knot. So at least whichever way you wear the scarf, it'll be uniform on each side. So yeah, so just continue working, adding your fringe along, and then we'll come back and we'll trim it up. All right, now that we are finished applying our fringe, it's time to trim it up. All right, so you're just gonna lay it down, and you're gonna just pull your strands. Make sure you don't have any that's like bunched up or twisted up, just so once you're finished cutting, it's all even. And I like to do it in little sections. So just get a little section, lay it out, make sure all your strands are out. All right, and then you get your tape measure. And you measure just from your little bump there, and you measure around 4.5 inches. And what I like to do is, I like to just grab something, be it a book, a little gauge ruler or whatever, and then just put it right to your measurement. So I got 4.5 right there where my finger is. So just use it and just like lay it down and stop right there. And then I pull my tape measure out. Lay my strands down, hold it firmly, and then you're just gonna cut along the edge of whatever it is you're using to hold it firm. So it sometimes takes a little time depending. So I'll also show you another trick because I always find it so difficult to cut when it's laying flat against something. So what I like to do is grab a little book. Sometimes I use a little folder and I slide it under the fringe. So you slide it under there, you lay your fringe out, and then once you measure, so you measure it out on your thing, and you grab your little ruler, and you bring it to the very edge of your book. So I'll take it off and I'll show you again. So you lay it all out, lay out your little section, and have the ends come right off the edge here. I'll push this in. And then you take your book, cardboard, ruler, and you put that right on the edge as well. So now you have a space that you can slip your scissors under. So now here you go. So you got it on the edge there. So now it's easier to get under all your strands without having to come up against the table. So then you clip it and your little bits fall off, but it gives you a little bit of height to get your scissors under and cut rather than having to like dig at the table. So yeah, you just go in little sections, and then what you can also do is once you get that first little bit cut, you got it like all laid out there, you can just use your hands and just hold it firm, just like so. And because you got that height, you can just keep going. So you clip a little bit, you bring some more on here, lay it out, and you trim. A little at a time, just so you don't start to make it go all wonky. fold her out. There you go. Dust it all off. Got your fringe. Easy peasy. Nice straight edge. And you're done. I hope you've enjoyed making this beautiful scarf with me. If you did, please like this video so more people will be able to find it. And until next time, take care. Bye for now.